Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Students and Young Professionals Symposium presented by Desjardins as part of the CARSP PRI 2021 Joint Virtual Conference. My name is Anusha Ranjan, and I'm from the organization Parachute, and I'm also part of the organizing committee for the Students and Young Professionals Symposium. I'd like to welcome you all to the first day of the symposium, the career panel, and I hope you'll join the symposium events that we have planned for each day of the conference. I'd like to thank our amazing group of volunteers for putting together our events, as well as our sponsor, Desjardins. Now I'll turn it over to Zach Stevenson from Desjardins to say a few words. Thank you.
Thanks, Nisha. And good afternoon. Thanks for having me here, and a big thanks to the event organizers for putting this conference together, and thank you to all of our speakers today. And thank you all for being here. Desjardins is really proud to be the official host of this event. We have over 50,000 employees and 7.5 million members and clients. So, we have an interest and a commitment to keeping people safe on our roads. And Desjardins is a cooperative. So as a cooperative, we operate a little differently than most organizations. We don't have shareholders, we have members. And our members are everyday people who have a voice in how we run our organization. So we have a responsibility to these members and our communities. So that means helping to fight climate change. It means addressing issues in road safety. It means promoting healthy lifestyles and excellence in education. Another proud part of who we are is our commitment and to empower our youth. Our organization is very vocal about the importance of investing in our youth and has made firm commitments to investing over $50 million a year to support youth across Canada. So whether you drive, cycle, or you just go for a walk along the sidewalk, we're all road users. And as road users, we see the risks of the road and the issues that need to be addressed. The roads, bicycle lanes, and sidewalks that we all use today were developed by others before you. So how can we make them safer? What changes need to happen? How can we save more lives and prevent injuries on our roads? These are the questions that we must constantly ask ourselves, and our youth must have a seat at the table. They're part of the solution. Of course, everyone has a role to play when it comes to road safety. So as you go through the conference and the youth events, do you see yourself playing a role in this? Are there issues within your own communities that need to be addressed? Are we missing something? We need your help to make a difference and to help save lives. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and I'd just like to thank all of you for being here, because just by being here, you're demonstrating a real commitment to road safety. So thank you again.
Thank you, Anusha, and thank you, Zach, and welcome everyone to the Students and Young Professionals Symposium. Today's career panel is the first of 3 really great events that we have planned. My name is Robert Colonna, and I'm the chair of the Young Professionals Committee. I am very excited to moderate today's career panel. So before I introduce our wonderful panelists, I want to state a few housekeeping notes. First, the conference interpretation service is available by clicking on the interpretation icon located at the bottom of your screen. Second, please only use the Q&A tab at the bottom of your video screen to submit questions to the panelists, and not the chat box or the chat box in FeedLoop. In the Q&A tab, you will also be able to comment and upvote. So basically like participants' comments, and then I'll ask the questions based on that order. I encourage you to post to social media using the hashtag CARSPPRI 2021. Now on to our speakers. Our first panelist is Andrew Sedor, transportation strategist at the City of Calgary. Our second is Bartek Komorowski, planning and design advisor, the team leader at the City of Montreal. And lastly, we have Nadia Forik, leader for health promotion and prevention at Vancouver Coastal Health and a member of the Young Professionals Committee. I will now pass it on to each of them for a brief introduction, and then we can get into some question and answers. So I invite you now to start asking some questions, and then we'll pose into them shortly. Andrew?
Hey, thank you so much. Can you guys hear me? Perfect. So my name is Andrew Sedor. I work as a transportation strategist at the City of Calgary. And so I've got to work on a lot of cool projects, including Canada's first public autonomous vehicle pilot. I ran Calgary's e-scooter program. I started a program called Living Labs. And I just thought I'd give kind of a really quick rundown of how I got to where I am today. So I started out at the University of Calgary doing a degree in urban studies. And where I got really inspired, and although it sounds cliche, is going to Europe on a field school. And I really learned how a city's design can really affect how people behave in that space and affect the quality of life. So I got super inspired by that, and then started a student group called the Urban Calgary Student Association. We did things like speak at council, put on various events, and then I was lucky enough to land a few summer student roles with the City of Calgary, including roles in land use and transportation planning. From there, I was hired out of my undergrad to become a transit planner. So worked as the Southeast Transit Planner, doing some of the pre-work for what now today is the Green Line project. And then from there, worked 3 years and said, I probably need a master's, and also want to go out and experience the world, because I'd just been in school and working in the same city. So with my love of Europe, I got accepted to do a master's at Cambridge in the UK, which was a blast. And the topic that I studied was on autonomous vehicles and transportation modeling. So seeing how new technologies affect our long-range assumptions for transportation. Then I came back and was working on the Green Line project. And then from there, I got hired on as the senior advisor to the general manager of transportation, which was an absolutely incredible role under Mac Logan, who I was really lucky to have as a mentor, just seeing how he works on a professional level. And from there, I got to write the Future Transportation Report. So a great report looking at new technologies and what different cities across the world that we're doing. Got to present that to council. Through that, there was the autonomous vehicle pilot, which was this little shuttle that we ran back and forth between the Science Center and LRT station. Started the Living Labs program, in which we opened up city assets in order for the private sector to utilize them for research and development practices. So set up a drone site, did sidewalk delivery robot testing. And then for the past 2 years, I've been running the e-scooter program, which has been really interesting, working with Alberta Health Services and some other people, just monitoring, see what works, seeing what doesn't. And now I'm doing some fun projects like the patio program and various infrastructure projects to make our streets better. So that's a really quick rundown of how I got to where I am today and some of the stuff that I've worked on. Thank you.
So I guess I'm next. As Robert mentioned, I work in the mobility department at the City of Montreal, which is actually it's the Mobility Directorate, which is part of the Urban Planning and Mobility Department. I'm leading a small team which works on various co-development projects with the help of other departments at the city. One of which is a set of design guidelines, so for safe and sustainable street design. My team is also responsible for monitoring the implementation of the city's Vision Zero action plan, and we're in the process of developing the next plan. Our plans span 3 years, so the current one ends this year, and we have a new one under development. And my team also is responsible for developing universal access guidelines for the city, and we're developing also a pedestrian navigation project, which will hopefully soon be deployed. As for how I got here, before joining the City of Montreal, I worked at Fellow Quebec, which is a cycling advocacy organization that has a consulting wing. I worked as a consultant, basically, there, working with municipalities and mainly in Ontario and Quebec on pedestrian and cycling design and planning projects. Before that, I studied urban planning, did a master's in urban planning. I actually have a bachelor's in cognitive science, so I kind of took an indirect route to get here. But my interest in urban planning, and specifically also in transportation, which arose because I started cycling around the city and found the infrastructure that was available to be a bit disappointing. So I guess that's what got me asking questions about, how could we make this better? And anyway, so that's how I ended up in urban planning in a nutshell. So I think I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Hi everyone, great to be here today. Thanks for having me. My name is Nadia Furyk, and I work at Vancouver Coastal Health, which is one of the 5 regional health authorities in the province of BC. I work in our population and public health program as the health promotion and prevention lead. And I wear various different hats in this role, but one of which is the injury prevention lead for the health authority. So I work on advancing our 3 provincial injury prevention priorities, which we have here in BC, one of which is transportation related injuries, hence my involvement in the road safety space. And our team works closely with local governments within the geographic area of our health authority, as well as we do some work, advocacy work provincially to advance road safety work. So things like legislation to reduce default speed limits, traffic calming, automated speed enforcement, among many other things, all of which of course have impacts on the public health and safety of our communities. In terms of how I got to where I am today, I actually have a background in business. I have my bachelor's of commerce. And specifically, I went on to work in management consulting for a number of years before coming into the public health space. And I worked on a variety of different projects in various different sectors and industries. And it was this work that led me to realize that I had the most interest and passion in the healthcare space, and specifically the public health space. So I then went on to, I went back to school to do my master's of public health at the University of British Columbia. And soon after that, started my position here at Vancouver Coastal, where I've been for the past few years. As I'm sure you can imagine, the past year and a bit has been far from normal working in public health, and very much consumed with pandemic-related duties, but really looking forward to getting back into more of the kind of health promotion space, population health space, through things like encouraging active transportation, building healthy and safe environments, and of course reducing transportation-related injuries, all of which have been affected by pandemic measures. So anyways, that's me. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to the Q&A.
Thanks, Nadia, and thanks everyone for joining in today. So I'm going to ask the first question here. What do you enjoy most or least about your work? And maybe I'll start with you, Andrew.
Sure. I think for me, it's collaborating with someone to build a project that can be implemented. So I like working on projects that I can touch and feel. So things like the autonomous vehicle pilot, where we work with a small team and actually accomplish something and actually get to see it come to fruition, is always really exciting for me. And the other thing is seeing your work in the field or even just visiting on site. Urban planning is a very spatial profession. And so the more that you can get out there and get on the field, meet with community members, meet with stakeholders, that's what I find most enjoyable. Just with the busyness of the job, sometimes you have to just utilize Google Maps to do things and correspond to people by email. But I think that's probably my least favorite thing to do, is writing page-long emails to people responding to various 3-on-1s, because I believe planning should be a dialectic. It should be back and forth, and people tend to misinterpret things when you're responding by email. So it's good to pick up the phone. It's good to meet people on site, and having that human connection is probably the most enjoyable part of my role, my job.
Great, thank you. Bartek, do you want to answer this?
Sure. In my case, what I've always found to be the most gratifying about my work is when I've worked on a plan or a design concept, and then it gets built. So, and I see these little elements of, oh, here's something that I influenced, and it's probably there because I participated in this project, and you see people using it and enjoying it. And also, I guess as a lapsed scientist, I guess, like, I always sort of think of design as kind of there's hypotheses that we make as designers, and it's interesting to see if they work out as you predict. So that to me is the most sort of fascinating and gratifying part of the work, is seeing things that you've seen on paper get built and used by people.
I guess I can go next. I really enjoy working with people and teams across various different sectors. I mean, to improve population health outcomes, which is what our goal is in public health, we must really look at the root causes for why people are getting sick and injured, and a lot of these causes lie outside of the healthcare sector, such as things like income, education, housing, etc. And therefore, in public health, we really need to work with as many external partners as we can to advance our population health goals. So I find this multidisciplinary work, things like working with school partners, local governments, provincial governments, etc., to be very interesting, and I enjoy it very much. It makes the work a lot more complex and impactful, I think.
Thank you. So there's a question in the chat over here, and I think it'll be an interesting response because we have both public health, but also City of Montreal and City of Calgary stake in this. So how often do you collaborate with academics, and is there any possibility for data sharing?
So response from City of Calgary. So we have this thing called the Urban Alliance, which is a formal relationship between the City of Calgary and the University of Calgary. And we've done some really cool projects collaborating with each other. We're doing this one right now where we're looking at wearable technology. So the the University of Calgary has a wearable specialty, and it was mainly used for kind of kinesiology purposes. But then we said, hey, we could use this for urban planning to start to understand how people feel in space. And it's taken off. We have a ton of participants. The lead professor just did a TEDx talk on it, which was super cool. And I meet with the U of C once every 2 weeks. We have a standing meeting just to talk about the different projects that we can collaborate on. I think sometimes the difficulty is we don't know exactly what the university researchers want. And so if you have an idea or something you want to work on, please reach out and pitch your idea, because we're usually willing to work on something with you.
Nadia, what about from a public health standpoint?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's probably something we should do more of. We don't have any formal tables or committees here at the Health Authority where we regularly engage with academics, but we engage with them, I guess, on an ad hoc basis as we're planning for new initiatives or trying to influence certain policies. I mean, we engage with them in that sense, and we have conducted studies with our local governments in the past, such as a couple of years ago, we did quite a comprehensive analysis in the city of Vancouver, assessing cycling injuries at high prone injury intersections of the city of Vancouver, which informed some of the work that they were doing. But I think there's always opportunity to work more with our academic partners here in kind of where I live. It's primarily the University of BC and Simon Fraser University. So it's a great question, and we do, but I would say there's always room for improvement.
In my case, I would say that we work very closely and very regularly with academic partners, and we have a few academic partners that are really part of our Vision Zero ecosystem. Yeah, we have really ongoing collaborations to help us understand various questions related to safety, questions as to, where should we, how should we prioritize our actions, where, Montreal is a very big city, and it's hard to, it's actually really difficult to know where we should start first. We're trying to get out of this kind of approach of, what are the 10 worst intersections, and instead we want to go to an approach where what are the 10 worst types of intersections, and then how we can find them across the city. So those are questions that our academic partners are those types of questions they're helping us with. We have other projects not directly supervised by my team, but in the mobility directorate. For example, we have an ongoing research project right now on level of stress faced by cyclists. So that's being done with one lab at McGill, my alma mater, actually. That's helping us with that project. So, but there are plenty of other examples.
Perfect, thank you. So there's another question which is kind of similar, but one of the attendees asked, what is your recommendation for recent PhD graduates in transportation engineering who are eager to join road safety projects in the public and private sectors?
I can take a shot at that. So I also teach at the University of Calgary. I teach 60 undergraduates, kind of a urban planning 101 course. And at the beginning of the semester, I always ask them what they want to do. And always more than half the class want to become architects. And it's not necessarily because they all love architecture and they've all seen all the options and that's the one that they chose, is that people aren't necessarily exposed to all the different career options that are out there. I have a friend in urban planning who became a skateboard planner. It does consulting for skate parks. And so I think a big thing is knowing what different types of professions and roles are out there. And the way that you do that is by going to conferences like this, meeting people and just saying, hey, can I have 15 minutes just to learn about what you do? In my experience, I've never had anyone turn me down or any of my students down when they ask for a 15-minute coffee just to learn about what people do. People are usually super passionate about their jobs in this sector and they want to talk about it. And so just go and ask someone, hey, I heard you give your presentation. I'm really interested in this. Could you spare 20 minutes? And I think the fact that a lot of these things are online even makes it easier. So the person can be from a different city and just reach out. Don't be shy about it. People are willing to share and collaborate. So go say hello.
Yeah, I would echo the same thing that Andrew just said. We don't bite, feel free to, you can contact us. Also, if you attend conferences, it's a good idea to go talk to speakers afterwards. We're usually there, we're available. We're happy to talk and answer questions. I would also add that a great way to get involved and to let us get to know you is to do internships. I would say, in my experience, many students that have interned during their undergraduate or graduate studies with us end up getting jobs at the city. So it's a good way to get people to know you and get a foothold in the in a career related to road safety and mobility.
And I would definitely echo what Bartek and Andrew have said. I mean, attending conferences like CARSP and just getting out and meeting people in the field, I've found to be so important earlier on in my career. There are so many different angles and perspectives to road safety. I mean, just look at the panel here today. And hearing and talking to people who have these different perspectives, I think can really shape the direction you want to take with your schooling and or your work. At least that's what I've found. So yeah, get out, meet people, ask questions, and I think keep an open mind. I would also say, I mean, if you have the opportunity to volunteer in this space, it's a great way to get exposure to it as well. As Robert mentioned in the intros, I volunteer on the Young Professionals Committee through CARSP, which is a great way to stay connected with people in this space across the country, which is really neat. Yeah.
Thank you. There's another question. I think we answered the first part of it, but the second part of it was asking what type of qualifications might students or young professionals look to get if they want to be more involved in this field. Do any of you three have any experience or can speak to that?
Well, I would certainly take a stab at it. I think one thing that's really important is you don't have to necessarily be an engineer or a health professional to get involved in this field. I mean, in my own case, like I said, I studied cognitive science at first, which got me interested in human environment interactions, and that sort of led to where I am now. And I think the other thing I would tell students too is it doesn't matter necessarily what you did as your undergraduate degree. There are different ways that you can change tracks and get involved. So I think that's, yeah, that would be my advice. Don't feel limited by what you've already done. I think what we said in response to the previous question is good advice if you want to get involved.
Yeah, and so for professional accreditation, like I have my CIP, Canadian Institute of Planners. I think that's great if you're a planner, but again, I don't think it's absolutely required if you want to get into this line of work. I would say what is something you can do when you're having those coffee conversations with people, ask what technical skills are needed because you want to add value. And sometimes the first way in that you can add value is from that technical perspective. So one of the ways that I first got hired by the city is I was good at GIS. And learning things like Excel, learning how to put together a good PowerPoint presentation, getting good at presentations. If you sit down with some of those people over coffee, ask them the question, like, what technical skills do I need? And there might be a shortage in certain areas, right? So there might be a need to learn something like Python if you're dealing with big data sets, or GIS, or even CAD. I'm kind of out of the loop with some of the technical things, but I know that there's very specific technical skills that some professions are looking for. And so if you're interested in a certain field, ask those people, what are the technical skills I need to start off in this? And then after a while, then you can manage the technical people after a few years of work.
I think that's some great advice. So one kind of final question I want to pose here. Is there anything that you wish that you knew, when you were starting out in this career or role?
I mean, I can start off. I came into the public health space and specifically into the road safety injury prevention space quite soon after I graduated from my Master's of Public Health program, with very little experience or exposure to this field. So coming into this role, I think I wish I knew a little bit more about the kind of the structures. Oh, I'm sorry, my video keeps turning off on me. I think I wish I knew a little bit more about the structures and kind of the stakeholders involved in this space. For example, what is the role of public health in road safety? What's the role of provincial and local government? And within local government, like, what do planners do? What do engineers do, et cetera? So while of course this type of thing you can very easily learn on the job, which is what I've done, it was a very steep learning curve right out of the gate, and I'm still learning. So again, tied back to some of the earlier responses and earlier questions, by networking and connecting with people in this space, you can learn about some of these things that you may not necessarily think of before starting a new job or starting a career in a new space.
Yeah, I would actually echo what Nadia just said. I think one of the things I didn't really understand very well when I started was how complex the transportation system is, and not just roads. I like to think of it in a much wider scope because it's all related together. And the municipality is only it's only a small player among others, which shapes roads and its ability to enact change is limited, and that's also kind of the spirit of the Vision Zero approach right now as well, is that we're trying to work with public health, with the different ministries, provincial ministries, even with the federal government, Transport Canada, because everyone has some holds certain cards which they need to play if we are to change the system as a whole. And I think it's really important to understand this whole ecosystem and how the different parts of it are interrelated.
And I would echo that. One of the things that I didn't know about coming into the planning profession is just the political nature of it. And so you can have something like Vision Zero that scientifically makes 100% sense, but then how do you sell that to the people who make the decisions? And it's not only the politicians, but it's internal administration. And so a lot of it is about making those connections. A lot of it is based on trust. So having people trusting in administration, and how you do that is being open and honest with people. It's meeting with the counselors before you present to council to explain, so they can answer any questions that they might be too embarrassed to answer or ask in public. Yeah, just the whole political nature of the role, and that's something that you don't learn in university. Another key skill set that you can learn as a young professional is just the ability to present. So present as much as possible, get out there, speak with people, because even if you have a great idea, you need certain people to approve it, and you need to be able to sell that idea to them.
Okay, thank you. So thank you again for all three of you for attending today, and thank you for all the attendees who took the time to join today's session. We're wrapping up now, so I'll just say that you can use the code SYMPOSIUM in the gamification tab to claim points for today's session. I also encourage all of you to attend the other two events held part of the Student and Young Professional Symposium. Tomorrow, we're hosting an interactive presentation on Vision Zero interventions around the city of Montreal. And on Wednesday, we'll be hosting a networking event with 6 road safety organizations. So enjoy, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.